The NFL came together in a very, very tragic, sad, I want to say somewhat hopeful way on Monday night. And somehow, in the pinnacle of it all, the Pittsburgh Steelers became a headline. And it just kind of feels like that's a very Pittsburgh Steelers thing to do. What's going on, everybody? I'm Noah Strackbine. Thank you for jumping on to Steelers to Go, your daily to go cup of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. Find us on youtube.com/all Steelers talk or anywhere you get your podcasts. And today, well, we're talking about Damar Hamlin. And I have to start this off by saying all my thoughts and prayers go out to him and his family during this and all of his loved ones and all of his teammates, past and present, his coaching staff, the Cincinnati Bengals, all the fans at Paycor Stadium. It was a very, very rough night for football and for sports. And I can only imagine how much that was amplified if you were in the building or knew him or have played with him before or play with him currently. And you just have to sit here and you have to hope for the best outcome. No matter what that is, you have to hope for the best outcome. And all of our prayers at All Steelers Talk easily go out to him and have gone out to him and will continue to go out to him. But in the midst of a very, very sad, anxious night in football, where we all stayed up well past midnight, hoping to hear any sign of light or any news, or in some of us, just hoping that we didn't hear terrible news deep into 1, 2 in the morning. Ryan Clark and Scott Van Pelt stole the show. And I don't mean stole the show as in there was a show to steal. I mean stole the show as in perfectly did their job and executed how you should handle that night and how you should handle that situation and how you should pay respect to Hamlin and continue to pay respect to Hamlin while also keeping the course of this is sports and we have to engage our audience in sports. There was nobody better to have out there than Ryan Clark. And I think that SVP was the perfect host in that situation. I don't know if anybody could have handled it better than the way he did, with such class and the ability to continue to talk and continue to bring up topics while constantly reminding us that this is much bigger than football and it will never be about football. But Ryan Clark being there and being able to share his experiences and vocalize what it means to these players from a personal standpoint was, I want to use the word incredible for lack of a better word, but there was nothing that you could have done that filled that moment better than those two. And it was highlighted by Ryan Clark giving his own example, talking about how Ike Taylor would cry at his bed and players would come to visit him after his incident in 2007 in Denver when he nearly died on the field and was rushed to the hospital because of his sickle cell trait that did something in his body that somewhat exemplified or amplified what was happening inside of him. I don't know. The medical science behind that is much farther than I. But either way, it was a very scary scene for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was a very scary scene for the players and for Ryan Clark as he spent days in a Denver hospital, all because of the altitude and something that he couldn't control, nor did he see coming, much like Damar Hamlin in this situation. And in moments where you start to question who the Pittsburgh Steelers are, why they are the way they are, why they ride with guys like Mike Tomlin so hard, these moments show you why. Ryan Clark kept strong to say that, his teammates were there for him and they felt that. And he kept using it as an example, not to talk about himself, but to highlight what guys like Stephon Diggs were feeling as he was trying to get into the hospital and what these guys felt as they watched their teammate, their brother, lay lifeless on this field, and how emotional and hard it was on them, and how it was so much bigger and so much more painful than football. And then he said Mike Tomlin wouldn't let him play the next time they went to Denver. And he said he was willing to die on the field. But Mike Tomlin had to look at it and say, if this was my son, we wouldn't be having this discussion. And in a night where everyone realized that these players are people, where everyone was reminded how fragile life is and how football is not anywhere near the game of life or a person. And it was a tragic but much needed reminder to many that this is a sport. It is not life, and it will never be life. And anybody who treats it above life needs a reality check. But on that night, on that same night, we got to understand once again that there's nobody out there that treats their players like Mike Tomlin does. That there's nobody who is willing to make someone feel like family the way that the Pittsburgh Steelers feel like family because of Mike Tomlin. And that is why he is the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach. And that is why he remains one of the best coaches in the NFL. It's why the Steelers sit here heading into week 18 with an opportunity at the playoffs, because Mike Tomlin looks at this as much bigger than football, much bigger than week 17, much bigger than week 2, much bigger than week 5. He looks at this as a game of life, and this is a chapter of that life, and he wants everyone to succeed in it while also understanding that he sees everybody for bigger than a football player, the way that we should all see everybody as bigger than a football player. And that is what makes him so good. And not everybody will agree with that. And a lot of people will tell me that it has to be the other side and you have to be successful at football and you can't be quote unquote soft. But in moments like this, when we all sat there staring at a television, hoping and praying, watching ESPN broadcasts where people held back tears, staring at these coaches and these players' faces in pure disarray, you're reminded that no, it is just football. And that love and respect for a human being reigns so much higher than anything. And in Mike Tomlin's case, it continues to lead to success. And it leads to success because these players, and you hear it all the time and you feel it all the time, they understand that they are more than a number to this man, that they are part of this family. They feel that. They feel that family atmosphere. They feel that love. That's what makes Mike Tomlin special. It's what's always made Mike Tomlin special. People toss out the word player coach all the time. But when everybody is concerned about the player and everybody in the world is praying for one player, you understand that there is nothing bigger in this game than the men fighting in it. And those men deserve respect. And nobody should be giving them more respect than the man leading them. It's what makes Mike Tomlin great. It's what's always made Mike Tomlin great. Once again, you got to give a shout out to Ryan Clark. You have to give a shout out to SVP. You have to give a shout out to the entire ESPN broadcast who did one hell of a job showcasing their talents and keeping everybody informed while also keeping their composure in a night that had to be extremely difficult. That's top class. And everybody involved was top class. And as we leave today and continue to stare at our phones and hope for positive news, you have to remember and you have to constantly remind yourself it's just a game of football. And if you treat people like it's just a game of football and on the other side of it is life, you'll understand what makes people like Mike Tomlin so great at what he does.